Yo, welcome back to the channel, guys. Now, you're gonna have to ignore what's behind me. I know it's tempting, but the focus today is gonna be on the old XJ. I'm gonna get this thing up in the air, get the wheels pulled off, and I'll show you guys what I got going on. So the goal here for the Jeep, now that winter's coming, is pretty much to get this thing to its former glory, streetable and off-road ready. And I really do just miss driving it, off-roading it, overlanding, all that kind of stuff. So the bulk of the repairs are gonna be getting the ABS light to turn off, starting with the rear axle on both sides. The wheel speed sensors need replaced, and we need new ABS wires. As far as the front axle is concerned, it is not original to this Jeep, and unfortunately the mistakes of my younger years are finally biting me in the butt, because this is a non-ABS axle. So what I'm gonna have to do is, oh my god, pull off the brakes and everything, and then unbolt the knuckle, get an ABS knuckle for both sides, along with the ABS axle shaft, which has the grooves cut in it. The reason you need the knuckle is because the sensor itself, there's a little hole. It's like somewhere around here. I'm actually not even sure, but it'll drop down in there to read the grooves on the axle shaft. Then going underneath here, there's a couple pieces of hardware right there. That's for the parking brake. Pretty simple fix there. Then moving up, again, mistakes of my younger days coming back to bite me. But when I was pulling this engine out, I was just kind of cutting it apart. But now that I'm fixing it, I'm starting to notice where I cut corners. So what we're looking at here is the exhaust manifold coming off the driver's side. And this is a 2000 Cherokee. So it's got the two cats immediately after the exhaust manifold. New ones are very expensive, and junkyards can't sell you anything relating to emissions. So the plan is on whatever Jeep I find, I'm gonna cut it right where this one is cut, and then there's another cat further back, then I'm gonna cut it there as well, and then we'll just take out the piping. And that is pretty much the plan here. Head to the junkyard, find a good donor Jeep, and pull all these parts off. Also, while we're there, I want to try and find a new front clip. The one I have isn't really in good shape. And lastly, I'm gonna need some random interior pieces, trim pieces, stuff like that. Nothing too major. Anyway, hopefully we find what we need at the junkyard. But before we do head out, I'm gonna start taking off these knuckles here just to get an idea of what kind of tools I'll need, and so I'm just familiar with the job and it won't be too hard once I have to do it outside on an old rusty junkyard Jeep. As you can see here, I already went ahead, took off the caliper and the rotor, took off the 36mm axle nut here. So the next thing to do is to get the wheel bearing off, get the hub off. That's the 3 bolts right around here, and I'm gonna hit them with some PB first because they do not look too happy. And I forget what size these are, some kind of 12 point. Got the wheel bearing bolts out, so now we gotta get that thing out of there. And you want to see a cool trick? Right back here, the end of your knuckle here, and then the axle shaft. Get you a socket or something that fits perfectly right there. I'm going to go in the Jeep, turn the wheel to the right, and it should force it right out. Now as you can see, that worked pretty good. Then the wheel bearing should slide right off of the splines on the axle shaft. Pull the axle shaft out. With that out of the way, I'm going to get the tie rod off of the knuckle there, 3/4 inch. Suck it. And take it off. Put the nut on backwards there. Now the only thing holding the knuckle on is the 2 nuts on the ball joint studs. Got 1 1/8 on the bottom, and then a 3/4 up top. With those off, I can go ahead and get the knuckle hammered off. Now everything I just did to this side, I'm gonna do over here. Just got done taking apart this other side here, and I made an interesting discovery. This side had ABS already hooked up. It had an ABS knuckle on it. Yeah! Well, shit. Got the ABS axle shaft here. I really have no recollection of ever swapping out a knuckle, so I have no idea. I don't remember. But I continue to take it apart anyway because I bought new ball joints for both sides. I can kind of show you what we're looking for here. So the only difference, the driver's side here has a little spot for the ABS sensor to bolt up to, whereas the driver's side does not have it. Also, like the axle shaft here does not have that row of splines on it for the sensor to read. But now that that's done, go ahead and put a bag together, get some tools together, and we're gonna head to the junkyard. Looks to be the place. Alright, I've been walking around a while, but I think I found the Jeep. Between that one and this one, I think we're going to get what we need. This one has the front clip in good shape, fairly good shape, and then this one's got the ABS. I only found 2 with ABS out of like 10. There's no tires on this thing, so I'm going to attempt to lift it up by the sway bar. What we need here, ABS, driver's side axle shaft. Let me show you the job site. Now I just gotta get the nuts off of the ball joints and hammer the knuckle off. It's actually going pretty good. The hardest thing was actually the cotter pin in the axle shaft for the nut. So far, so good. Alright guys, we made out pretty good here. I didn't film that much. There was like trucks driving around. It was pretty loud. So yeah, I got everything. I'm gonna get it loaded up in the truck and then I'll lay it all out at the shop back home. I'll show you. We have returned. Here's what we got. New front clip, got 2 of the roof rack bars, interior trim piece, got an airbag, that exhaust piece I was talking about, the ABS knuckles, and the ABS axle shaft, and also that little e-brake thing I was talking about too. All this was 60 bucks, which I don't think is too bad because one knuckle alone brand new is about that. So I think I made out all right. Now we get to put it all on. And real quick, the reason I bought a passenger side knuckle is because when I went to put the caliper back on, the holes were stripped out and it wouldn't tighten up. So this side's got ball joints pressed in already. Well, I did both sides actually. Got the new ball joints in. Should be good to go. I put a new U-joint in the axle shaft there, so that's good to go. So let's get to it. First I'm gonna try and clean up these knuckles real quick. Hit them with the wire wheel. Nothing too fancy, just get them cleaned up a little bit. See what happens. And while I'm at it, might as well put on some of this Rust Stop spray paint. While those are drying off, I'm gonna do these interior pieces. Starting with this. I think it all just snaps in place. Sure enough, just snapped in. Get a couple of these screws going here. Then we can snap in the center thing. Something like that. The airbag put in. Got 2 wires and 2 bolts. They ain't just bolted into the back right here, one on each side. That holds it in. And man, this interior has not been this complete in a few years, so feels pretty good. Just got done underneath hooking up that new e-brake hardware. So this thing should be nice and tight. Now for the main event, we'll go ahead and get this knuckle on and everything else. First, get it shoved up on there. And I get a nut on to hold it in place. Got them torqued down. We'll get the new cotter pins put in. ABS is hooked up. I'm gonna put the new axle shaft in. I was gonna swap out this U-joint, but it actually feels pretty good. Get the new wheel bearing put on. And the wheel bearing bolts go back in and get torqued down to 75 foot-pounds. Now for the axle nut, stick the washer on and the nut. Torque spec on that, 175. I got an extension back here to keep the hub locked. That way it don't spin when I'm trying to tighten it. Stick this thing back on and a new cotter pin. Got the rotor back on along with the caliper. I was going to get the wheels and tires on and everything, but I went to tighten down this nut here on the tie rod end and it wasn't tightening, and then I saw the boot was ripped open, so I ordered a new one for each side, and that obviously won't be here for a little bit. I also ordered new ends for the drag link, so that stuff's coming. That's pretty much all I wanted to get done today. Unfortunately at the junkyard, I couldn't find an ABS rear stuff that I needed, so that isn't finished, but everything else I've got. And the next thing to do is start thinking about paint. I already got door handles and everything taken off, but I really feel like I'm making some good progress. And that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this one, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next video.